Hi, Dr. Ross. Thanks so much for sitting down with us. It's been so fun having you in the clinic for the past couple days and getting to meet all of our patients and learn a little bit about what we do here at Colorado Tinnitus. But I wanted to turn the mic over to you, literally, and ask you a little bit about what brought you into the world of tinnitus and specifically what made you decide that you wanted to launch Lenire and start out this whole new form of treatment for us.
Yeah, well, my background is in biomedical engineering, and I originally was planning on working in phantom limb pain. But then around about that time, my daughter was diagnosed with profound hearing loss. So I started getting very interested in active implantable devices for hearing, cochlear implants and things like that. And then I kept stumbling across this tinnitus problem, and when I spoke to audiologists and ENTs, they basically told me it was the largest unmet need in hearing healthcare. So
Definitely.
I felt compelled to try develop something for these patients.
Awesome. What do you think, I mean, obviously you're going to be biased, but what do you think makes your product different than anything else we've seen? I mean, there's been other devices that have come out on the market, wristwatch devices, headphone devices. I mean, I'm sure tinnitus patients have probably seen it all. What do you think makes Lenire different?
Yeah, so, well, it's a first of its kind. It's the first and only bimodal neuromodulation device to ever be approved by the FDA. Bimodal neuromodulation is a very fancy way of saying that bimodal means it stimulates two senses at the same time, and then neuromodulation means that it makes changes in the brain. So what makes it completely unique when, like you said, tinnitus patients have seen, I mean, so many treatments that are promised all these
Treatments,
results.
drops, pills, everything, right?
Exactly. So we could see that from the very start that there was kind of a whole credibility issue around tinnitus. So we decided, okay, if we're going to bring this to market, we're going to work with the top scientists. We're going to do the largest clinical trials ever conducted in the space. We're going to publish in the top tier journals, peer reviewed, so they go through the full rigors of having other scientists look and review our work. We're going to go the hard route with the FDA, so we're going to put clinical data in front of them. We're going to have it reviewed by their experts and, you know, build the credibility of this treatment, because we feel that's what's needed in the tinnitus field. So one of the companies that we admire, or I came to admire through my own personal journey with my daughter, was Cochlear. You know, they developed the multi-channel cochlear implant. So we call these kind of companies the category creators. So we're on a mission to become the category creator for tinnitus.
That's amazing. And what do you think is it about? I think a lot of people get caught up on new treatment, new technology, and that can make tinnitus patients a little bit nervous. But obviously this isn't new to you from what I'm hearing. How long have you been developing this, working on this, going through all of that?
Yeah, so I think the idea we probably started working on it maybe 15 years ago. So
Wow.
Initially in an Irish university, and around about that time there were 3 independent groups that were kind of arriving at the same kind of approach. So
Okay.
there was us in Ireland, there was Professor Hubert Lim, who's in Minnesota, and then Professor Susan Shore, who's in the University of Michigan. And we were a part of a computational neurobiology group, so we built computer simulations to simulate how the hearing system interacts with the touch system. And then we jumped straight into humans. We decided not to do the animal research.
Yeah.
Because I mean, okay,
Humans are who we're going to treat. So
yeah,
I'm in
exactly,
agreement with that.
exactly,
I'm in agreement
yeah.
with that.
And so Hubert and Professor Shore, they did the animal research, which confirmed what we were looking at.
Yes.
And so we approached those guys about maybe joining forces. So Hubert actually thought it was a great idea, so he joined and became our chief scientific officer. So he was instrumental in some of the large scale clinical trials that we conducted, and then in the papers that were peer reviewed and published in Nature and Science. So these are top tier peer reviewed journals. So
Yeah.
as good as it gets, kind of thing. So yeah, so that's been kind of the journey so far.
Yeah, and it's been, honestly, I have to say, really validating for us as clinicians to see those same results unfolding in clinic. I mean, I know in our discussion yesterday, you mentioned kind of the way that those trials are structured and what happens when you move it into the real world. Can you speak a little bit to what makes things different in the clinical studies versus what we're seeing now in our Insight clinics?
Yeah, so in the clinical trials, it's highly controlled, And really what you're trying to do is evaluate the product, standalone, to see how effective and safe and how tolerable it is for patients. So that's what you kind of submit to the FDA. Then when you take it out into the real world, normally what happens actually is that clinical results maybe get a little bit worse, because when you go into clinical practice, providers start prescribing slightly off label and stuff like that. But we've actually seen the opposite. So our real world evidence is actually better than our clinical trial data. And we put that down to what we call the 3 Ps. So it's when you take a highly effective product like Lenire and you put it in the hands of expert providers who follow well-defined clinical processes, then you get exceptional results. And this is why, we are so strong on, choosing the right providers to fit Lenire, because they're a huge part of the overall success story.
Which answers my follow-up question, and a lot of patients ask us, because being kind of in the center of the country, we see patients from all over, and a lot of their questions is, why did I have to come all the way to Denver for this? And it's I think, like you said, it's really important who is delivering that treatment. And I think we can all agree that there's a shortage of tinnitus providers out there.
Yeah, and I think that's been in part because there haven't been proven effective treatments in the past, right? So they've been reluctant to jump into
that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because nobody wants disappointed patients, But now we have a highly effective product, that's backed by published data from thousands of patients, and then we are taking a very kind of measured approach to how we roll it out. So we're working very closely with providers like you, as you know.
Yes.
We're here, we're supporting you.
Amazingly so. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's if you looked at the journey for cochlear implants, it was quite similar. It was a new technology, so they worked very closely with providers to support them and ensure that they got successful outcomes.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that, as somebody who's been working with tinnitus for a while now and has seen some of those products come and go, the support from your team has been unmatched, and I think has really made a difference for us putting faith in the product and recommending these to our patients. So thank you for that. It definitely shows. I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit.
Okay.
You've talked enough about tinnitus, I'm sure, over the last couple days. But if you were to branch out, and you mentioned phantom limb pain, but if you could do anything else in the world, any other dream job, no limitations, what would you do?
Well, I think that initially when I started working on tinnitus, I thought that I would, it would be a lot faster and easier. But
I'm sure most patients could probably echo that sentiment.
So I wanted to develop a fully implantable cochlear implant. Now, as it turns out, Envoy Medical have done that, so which is great. But what's intriguing me at the moment are probably PTSD patients. So there's a huge overlap between tinnitus and PTSD. So I've seen a lot of veterans that have it, and firefighters, people like that, that have it, and so those patients are intriguing. Tinnitus is a huge part of it. So I think they're a very interesting group.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly use your help in that department as well. What do you think makes working with tinnitus audiologists different for you? I mean, sure, this is your first time working so closely with audiologists, but what makes a tinnitus audiologist different?
Yeah, I think they're very caring people. I think they're very brave people, because you're entering into uncharted territory. You have to trust your instincts. Every tinnitus patient is slightly different, but I think if you trust your instincts, and we talked about this before, I think that you can get great outcomes. And it's using all the tools in the toolbox. So bimodal is one of them, but there are others that you have to use, and finding the right blend for each patient is kind of critical, and that comes down to the provider.
Yeah, definitely. And taking that holistic approach is definitely what we see makes a bigger difference for our patients in their tinnitus, but in their whole life. Thank you. It's nice to see a manufacturer appreciate what we're trying to teach and project here into our patients and pour into our patients. A little bit more, if I can take another minute of your time, what piece of advice would you offer to a patient? Somebody, if you walked into an event with a bunch of patients struggling with tinnitus, what would you give them? What would you say to them?
I would say contact a provider, a tinnitus expert, find out who your local tinnitus expert is. I think a great way to do that, because we are going through the process of finding out who the best of the best are, then go to Lenire.com, and go on to the Find a Clinic. you know, that's not us pushing our product. You know, they may end up with a different solution, but you can be sure if you go that route that the providers that they find, you know, we have vetted and are great tinnitus providers.
Yeah. And I will say I've seen firsthand how much you guys encourage us to do what's best for the patient, even if that doesn't mean selling your product, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's not what we're here for,
Yeah.
to sell a product. And again, I'll thank you for being one of the manufacturers that understands that difference. And thank you for letting me take a little bit of your time and
Thank
pick
you.
your brain. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank